Welcome then to a brand new series of Tatum Talks, the official podcast of Kelvin Tatum. I'm Ian Brannan, and together we're here to look ahead to the 2024 Premiership season in British Speedway. Before we get on to Kelvin, just to tell you this podcast is sponsored by Maitland Travel Speedway Holidays. You can find all the info about the trips that they've got planned in 2024 at maitlandtravel.co.uk, and they'll take you right around the world in 2024 for the world of Speedway. We'll spotlight some of those in a little while, but starting off with Croatia and Zagreb, you've got the German Grand Prix, Warsaw. You could even be heading to Australia to check out the Australian Championships, and how about a trip to America as well? Right around the world of Speedway, all the info you need, escorted holidays, or you can make your own way there. So many different options, but if you've ever wanted to go and watch Speedway somewhere a little different, somewhere far-flung, you've always wondered how you're going to get there, well, go there with like-minded Speedway people, and you're in good hands with Alan and the team at Maitland Travel, that's for sure. maitlandtravel.co.uk. And as I say, we'll talk about some of the trips you can go on and Kelvin's own experiences of the Bavarian beer halls a little bit later on. But right now, coming out of hibernation, here he is. Kelvin Tatum is back for another busy season of Speedway. There's lots to look forward to, Kelv. And, well, the season is starting. It's starting very, very soon indeed. Middle of March, we're going to be in business and straight into action in the Premiership.
Yeah, it's coming very early. What's in store for 24, Ian? I think it's what we've got in store for 2024 is plenty of excitement, I'm sure. We need the weather to brighten up a bit. It's been awfully wet. And fingers crossed that we can get going and crack on March the 14th when we get the first Premiership meetings underway. But like you were saying, the league looks good. It looks exciting. We have some big hitters back in the league, which is something that I wasn't expecting. I think it's a pleasant surprise to see some of the names returning to British Speedway. So yes, plenty of excitement. Of course, at the end of last year, we lost two teams in Wolverhampton and Peterborough, which was desperately disappointing. We don't want them, but we are back up to 7 teams with Birmingham, of course, coming in, and of course Oxford being very ambitious with running 3 teams. So yeah, looking forward to getting our teeth into what we think of the lineups and any other changes that are coming along in 24.
We last spoke just after the AGM, and not much had really been announced as far as teams were concerned then. So we've got all that to get stuck into. One team that was very early in announcing things was Sheffield, and they didn't do this drip thing. They came out, whop, there's our team. And pretty much it was a lineup that was the side that finished last year. Of course, lots can be said about the fact that Sheffield used over, nearly 20 odd riders through the course of the season. But by the way, every team used guests. Every team had guests through the course of it. Nobody can say that they just ran with their full 1 to 7 for the entire season. Nobody can say that. Sheffield and Kings Lynn used the most riders. And we can get into that a little later. We can see how many. I've got the list somewhere of exactly how many riders they did use. But to have 2 world champions named in your side, and a rider as well in Jack Holder, who certainly will be looking to go maybe 1 or 2 better in the Grand Prix this year, and so therefore with his eyes on the very top prize again, because he was in the mix, wasn't he, come the closing stages until that injury. That is a powerhouse top 3 for Sheffield, and the second strings don't exactly look shabby either, do they?
No, it's an impressive side, and it was also very impressive how quickly they moved. Damien Bates was keen to get his team tied down. He didn't want to lose anybody. Chris Holder coming in at the later stages of the season was a surprise, but he did remarkably well. And you know, riders like Josh Pickering coming into the team throughout the season, he didn't start that well, but he certainly finished extremely strongly. I know that Ty Woofenden enjoyed his time. It was unfortunate that Ty got injured at the back end of the season because he was doing a great job for them. But Sheffield Tigers winning their first time at the highest level, their first trophy at the highest level last year in dramatic style. Fair play. They moved quickly, and to all intents and purposes, I get the feeling that Sheffield will be many people's favourites coming into 24.
They surely have to be. Of course, you can say this for the whole of Speedway. It all depends on the injuries and the changes that end up getting made, because inevitably some changes will come in. But Ty Woofenden, when he's on form, I had a chat with Pete Adams through the course of the winter, and he was making the point that he feels that Ty could well be a different beast this year. He's moved back to Britain again. He wasn't enjoying life living out in Poland as he had done the last couple of years. He's based back here. He's getting his family life back together over here. And Pete Adams feels that is going to therefore translate through to his Grand Prix performances. And he feels that there's still more to come on the world stage from Ty. He knows that Ty's still focused on getting another world title. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but he feels that there's always been reasons in the last few years for maybe why Ty hasn't been, fully on it. Things going off in the background, be that injuries or personal things, whereas now he feels that he's in a good place and we should watch and see what's going to happen this year.
Yeah, Ty went through quite a traumatic period on and off the track in the last few years. He made a big decision to move into Poland, living just outside Wrocław, where he's been for some considerable time. There was some disruption in his team, and that I don't think helped at all. So, that's never easy. And clearly, the family didn't really settle in Poland. So I agree with Pete Adams. I sense if you get your family life right and they're settled and happy. Also, it's a pressure cooker living in Poland. You never get away from it, particularly when you're living very close to the city and the town where you're racing. Every time you go to a shop, when you go shopping or get your food or whatever it is, go to the petrol station, there'll be somebody that will know you, and you will never be able to be truly switched off. And that brings pressures of its own kind. So yeah, let's hope he is. He has the talent. He's a proven winner. And he will be Bartosz Marslik will be a tough nut to crack, no question. But Woofenden has got 3 world titles, so you don't get lucky 3 times. And it would be fabulous for everybody concerned if he. I think also there was a change last year, Ian, where John Jorgensen came into the team. He started working with him in Tetero, and I think that relationship gently got stronger, and the understanding between the two individuals, because I spoke to John at the end of the season in Torren and he was enjoying it, and I believe that he will continue to do so, and that also could be a part of the team that could prove to be a reason for an upturn in form. So looking forward to it. As I say, the sense of anticipation at this time of year is what it's all about, and Woofenden back in British Speedway enjoying it is I think he is a catalyst for a lot of these other bigger names to come back.
Well, absolutely. And we saw, obviously, Emil come in last year, and I think maybe he also, in no small way, helped coming over here, serious rider. He started having a good time. The fans really took to Sayfutinov, didn't they? And that has spread. They speak, don't they? We saw Artem Laguta come in. Woofy, we've now got Janowski here, obviously Frick remains, Bewley, they all talk on that world stage, don't they? And the word is getting around now, and I know from speaking to Phil Morris on the official British Speedway podcast this week, he's been saying that his phone has been running quite hot with various riders from Poland, from across Europe, who are interested now, but maybe those are calls that he perhaps wouldn't have had a year or two ago.
Oh, well, I think definitely he wasn't getting those sort of calls. I don't think anybody in Britain was getting calls from riders out on the continent to come back to ride in the league. It was almost sort of like Britain was, British Speedway was, being ostracised in some way, and it was being frowned upon and looked down upon by lots of people. And I think the circumstances with Emil Sayfutinov are quite key to it. You're absolutely right to bring that up, because with his suspension because of the conflict in Ukraine, he's looking for a job. They lost their jobs, Artem Laguta and Sayfutinov. All of a sudden, Britain became very attractive. He comes over, he's raving about it, he's loving it. And as you rightly say, he's going back to ride in Torren in the Extraliga. It's a close-knit community speedway. And the word gets out very quickly that it's all right, it's good fun, I'm loving it. Woofenden comes back, joins him, he's got a smile on his face. There's less pressure as well here. Extraliga is hugely pressurised. Great rewards, of course, but hugely pressurised. They're coming back, and as a consequence, we're seeing riders like Maciej Janowski. We've got one or two others also. We've got the Pawlicki boy coming back, Milik coming back at Birmingham. As I say, these are guys that have previously been here and have turned their back on British Speedway, but now all of a sudden there's a different attitude, which is a bonus for us.
Something that you touched on, though, and Phil Morris has mentioned this, about, you say about the pressure in Poland, and Woofy has said that one of the things he loves about British Speedway now is, first of all, it feels more professional, I think he said, but also he said it feels cool. You know, you can come, you can turn up, you ride your bike, everybody's having a good time, and as you say, your performance isn't getting analysed with every detail. You're not feeling you're going to get binned out of the lineup for a bad night, and that means you have more good nights because you're turning up, everybody's relaxed, and he feels that it's more, you know, what you're there to do. You're there to enjoy racing, and he enjoys racing here because of that lack of pressure and focus and all the other stuff that goes perhaps with Poland, because not everything in Poland is covered in gold. You know, I think that's the thing. They have their issues as well, and that pressure still remains even though they have their issues.
Yes, absolutely, and they're being controlled strongly by promotions and sponsors alike. You know, even if you haven't got your hat on at the right time, you'll be fined. If you haven't, you know, if you miss a track walk, or you're late, or you're in the changing room, if there are circumstances, it is a very controlled environment on and off the track now in Poland. Of course, if I was riding and I was an international rider, I'd be there because the rewards are, everybody knows about the rewards and the money that you can earn in Poland. So, but as you rightly say, coming back to the UK, I think you're getting back to the reasons why people want to go racing. They enjoy racing. Some of it is lost when it gets very, very pressurised. And so it's like a bit of a pressure release, like a pressure valve. You come back into the UK, it's still very competitive racing, but people have got smiles on their faces and there's a real good vibe. And it's happened very quickly, Ian. We've been in the doldrums, we've had mediocrity as teams. Now all of a sudden, Heat 13s, even last year when we had those Heat 13s, some of them were truly remarkable. And you could argue some of our Heat 13s are going to be stronger than Grand Prix races. That is a reality, and that should excite people, and that will put bums on seats.
Yeah, there'll certainly be some explosive races, I'm sure, and I think we won't have to wait too long because obviously the sides are going to meet each other fairly quickly once the season gets going. So Sheffield then, they are Ty Woofenden, Jack Holder, Chris Holder, Kyle Howarth, the only rider to make it through the season for Sheffield last year, Josh Pickering, Jason Edwards and Dan Julks. And, you know, the rising stars are going to be a talking point, Kelvin, and they've got two experienced heads there, Sheffield, as well, just to sort of finish off with Sheffield. But they have a big contribution to make, don't they, at that, you know, number 6 and number 7, and Jason Edwards and Dan Julks, two really experienced up-and-coming riders, both have ridden for, you know, the under-21 team and through the youth ranks in British Speedway as well.
Yeah, I can see those two lads, they need to kick on. Jason Edwards has been spoken about quite highly. He has a lot of ability. I'd like to see him push on a bit and actually push into the main body of the team if he could. It won't be easy because their top 5 is very strong, but nonetheless, Jason Edwards, I think it's a big season for him ahead. Dan Julks, of course, is another lad that certainly is gaining an experience. And rightly say, those two guys down at the bottom there, they're key to outcomes to meetings. We saw Dad's Army just a few short years ago, Peterborough Panthers winning the league when they had international riders riding it down at reserve and picking up huge amounts of points because, as we all are all aware, they can have 7 rides each. So, but I like that lineup. I think it's settled. There's continuity, and if they get off to a good start, I think Sheffield could well be the team to beat again in 24.
Yeah, Dan Julks also riding in Poland for Piła. And the team manager there, for those that are not following that, the team manager there is Hans Nielsen. So he's certainly going to be blessed with some experience over there as well. You fancy of things to look out for with somebody of that experience. And then Simon Stead at Sheffield, of course, he's got some good management. Where shall we go next then? Shall we go to the runners-up, Ipswich, who of course won the Knockout Cup and very, very close to winning themselves a Premiership title. And what a top end they have, Kelv, with Jason Doyle and Emil Sayfutinov continuing. But you fancy it's one of the new signings for Ipswich who could well be the key man.
Yeah, I think Adam Ellis had a poor season for Sheffield last year, eventually being dropped by the team. He rode well on the continent, but for some reason just didn't click into gear on a regular basis riding in the UK, which I know frustrated him. And Adam, who has won the British Championship, he was the wild card for the Grand Prix just a couple of seasons ago. So, to me, he has lots of quality, and I think that Chris Louis and Mr. Hawkins are very keen to see him return to form, because if he does, that is a huge, huge rider in the middle of the team there. Jason Doyle, Emil Sayfutinov, well, genuine world class. Keenan Rue's getting better every season. Danny King returned to something like his former performances. As I say, that is quite a tasty looking and a very attractive looking top five that will challenge anybody. As I say, if Adam can find form and be rejuvenated down at Vauxhall, then I think that Ipswich will potentially go a little better, because they did so very well last year. But I think Adam being around Jason and Emil, I think that must rub off. I'd like to think it would rub off. So, and I'm sure he'd be determined to go better this year.
And as you mentioned, obviously he's ridden there before, so it's not completely new environment for him. Vauxhall, I think, it's not necessarily a technical track as perhaps as some might say in the case of like Monmore, but it does have its quirks, doesn't it? And I know from doing track walks and what have you with Danny King, he's sort of explained that there are things that catch new riders out around that circuit. Obviously, Jason Doyle and Emil Sayfutinov didn't take too much time to get to grips with it, but it can catch you out. They've all got another signing as well. Jordan Jenkins comes in. I think Jordan Jenkins might have guested a couple of times for Ipswich over the course of last season as well, and obviously made an impression, and he needed to find somewhere new with Peterborough, of course, disappearing. So again, another exciting young rider who's capable of some big performances and has made valuable contributions everywhere else he's been.
Yes, and I think it was something that was difficult for Ipswich last year when they lost riders before the season started. Down at the bottom end of the season, and they sort of juggled that position throughout the year. They also had issues with Eric Riss, with his illness, which was really tough for the individual as well as for the team, and they sort of did extremely well to actually sort of bring Eric back in when he was clearly not 100%, but they still managed to pick up a trophy and very nearly won the league as well. But if they can remain settled there, and Jordan can settle in as well as Adam, then... And Dan Thompson, of course, another rider that got injured. Injuries were sort of rife at the back end of last season. It really was like an epidemic almost. But it's a good-looking lineup, Ian. And as I say, it's a tough call between Sheffield and Ipswich. It really is right now for me, for the top two teams in the league going into the new season. But I'm sure they're very excited in that part of the world as the season approaches.
Yeah, Eric Riss is an interesting one to watch. He's not in any team in British Speedway at this moment in time, although I think he has turned some opportunities down at championship level because he's got commitments on the continent, and so weekend racing for him is sort of out at this moment in time at least. Perhaps that'll change. But I gather that he has got his eye on a Premiership place. Obviously, opportunities are going to come up. Somebody will get injured at some point. So I would keep an eye on Eric Riss, sort of waiting in the wings, as many other riders have done, to sort of gauge how things are going and maybe pick another team as those opportunities come up into the season. Yeah,
absolutely. And Eric is, if he's healthy, I saw that he's posted some practicing from Neunknick, which is in the north of Germany. So he's keen to get back out on the bike, and as I say, he is a good rider. He's an international rider. He's won world championships on the long track, and as I say, prior to the illness, he was going along very nicely. So he could be a very handy man sitting in the wings if and when teams require him. As I say, he may well be committing to do more long track racing, or there's Poland, or I don't know what his international commitments are, but certainly a rider of that ability, if he's fully fit and going well, could be very useful for somebody.
Yeah, certainly one to keep an eye on. Don't forget Eric Riss. He's ready and waiting when the opportunity arises, that's for sure. Let's talk about Leicester next, Kelv, because they're an interesting one. We've talked a bit about Wolves obviously no longer being part of things. I suspect maybe a few Wolves fans will be making the trip over to Leicester because there's quite a few familiar faces there. Their team is a mixture of last year's Leicester side, but also a few Wolves as well. Max Frick, Sam Masters, of course, former Wolf, Drew Kemp, Joe Thompson, Richard Lawson, and Luke Becker and Ryan Douglas also making the move from Monmore as well. So quite a bit of familiarity there for any Wolves fans. And you fancy the riders they brought in at Leicester, particularly Ryan Douglas, but also Sam Masters and Luke Becker. Three of the top end of that Wolves side from last year.
Yeah, I like the look of Leicester, and I asked you to send me over some odds for the season, and I actually see that Leicester have been put down fairly well down in the ranks at 12-1, which surprised me, because when you look at that lineup, okay, Max Frick, genuine world class. He's not a Grand Prix rider this year, but that means he's going to have a little bit more energy potentially for his British club. But all the rest of those riders are rock solid British League riders, and I've got to say that they won't take a lot of time to settle in. Becker, Douglas and Masters all know each other. I do believe that team will gel from the very first moment they bump into each other at press and practice day. And I think they could be underrated right now. In actual fact, I think they are. They did remarkably well last year. The bubble burst a bit last year. You could argue they made some changes when maybe they didn't need to. But fundamentally, I know that set up there. I'm sure they'll be very keen to do well. And that is a sort of team that just could surprise one or two, in truth, particularly at home. At that, Luke Becker rides small tracks brilliantly. Douglas, they actually go round Leicester pretty much as well as they go round Monmore. And I think that all the Aussies are going to click, aren't they? They all know each other extremely well. So, yeah, Leicester, I'm excited about that. And I've just written a note, solid. A solid side, lots of British experience. Richard Lawson epitomises that. He's always very reliable. So, yeah, I think Leicester fans will be excited about the new season, and they will be encouraged by the look of their team.
Do we think there's an opportunity to beat the bookie there? I think there might be a little get on that quick while those odds are still 12-1.
I fancy a flatter on it. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put the house on it. Go for it.
I think as well, though.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Kelvin's
it's a guarantee.
I'm
on the vodka
early. What is in that water bottle? I think though as well that because Leicester missed out so dramatically in that fixture against Peterborough, they were nailed on. They were romping there. They were pretty much home and host for the playoffs, and it was just like a mathematical quirk that they only need X amount of points to get there, and it was sort of given that they would do it, and then they didn't. They failed, and it was that man Chris Harris who, of course, switched sides from Leicester for Peterborough, who actually did most of the damage, and that's where the wheels really fell off. And you think that knowing Stuart Dixon, I don't think he's going to be wanting that to happen, and he'll be more determined as well to make the playoffs. And I think with that lineup, as you say, I think they have been underrated perhaps, and maybe gone under the radar slightly. As you say, solid grinding results out, aren't they? Yeah,
Stuart would have been extremely frustrated about what happened last year. We actually Eurosport, we actually covered, I think it was they'd had 8 consecutive wins, and we were there, and Ipswich, funnily enough, were the visitors, and they won. And from that moment on, their season got a bit topsy-turvy. And it was rather ironic that one of the riders they released in Chris Harris actually then came back to haunt them later in the season. And I think it was a major learning curve, the way they just potentially, Stuart won't be pleased with me saying this, but I think they panicked a wee bit at that point. and maybe they just needed to be a little bit more patient. But I'm sure they've learned from that. But as I say, what I can be confident about, it's a rock solid looking team, a team that I think I'd be surprised if they don't make the top four.
So the Leicester Lions then, Kelvin reckons, could be in the hunt for the playoffs. Let's speak about another side now who, well, we say it every year, they're always hoping for a better season, and the last few years it's not really worked out. But Kings Lynn, you fancy this year with new manager. Obviously, Rob Lyon makes the move over to the Adrian Flux Arena, well, back to the Adrian Flux Arena, of course, and some familiar faces for Peterborough fans in this one as well, with Kings Lynn lining up with Benjamin Basso, Niels Christian Everson, Anders Rowe, Tobias Musielak makes the move from Sheffield, Michael Palmtoft, Vadim Tarasenko and Patrick Wojolo make the move from Peterborough. So it's almost like the Kings Lynn Panthers here, Kelv.
Yeah, exactly. So, they all know each other. And I've got to say, it looks a tidy side. It really does. And Rob Lyon, who has got plenty of experience, great to see that his enthusiasm for the sport after being clearly, it must have been so tough over the last couple of seasons, having had that massive high of winning the championship and then consequently the next two seasons being pretty dire. They did turn things around at the end of last season. They had a very attractive team right at the back end of the season, but in truth, their opportunities for any real glory had gone. Kings Lynn, I mean, they've been around for donkey's years. It's a great track. They've got some good riders in here. Injuries to Michael Palmtoft have been really problematic for him personally over the last couple of seasons, because if he can have a run of form, he's a match winner. He's a double figure man, and he can pick up tremendous. I was also very impressive with Tarasenko coming in last year, and Wojolu as well. Patrick Wojolu coming in. Both of those riders actually made quite a big impact for Peterborough in a league where potentially they could have had the excuse where they maybe needed a bit more time to settle, to become more accustomed to it. Basso getting better and better. Niels Christian Everson, not quite the rider he once was, but clearly Niels retains plenty of enthusiasm, and he's had his injury problems. And as I say, that's a team that, again, like all the teams, this is a tough call this year because they all look really good. But Kings Lynn, I think they're going to be in for a much more encouraging season. I think they will be pretty solid at home. I think it's all Kings Lynn. To me, it's going to be what they can pick up on the road, and can they get, Musielak is going to be a leader, no question about it. I expect him to lead from the front. He did a great job for Sheffield over the last couple of seasons. So I think quietly Rob Lyon will be pretty upbeat about this season, and keeping his fingers crossed that this team can perform and gel together nicely.
So Kings Lynn then, hoping for a better season. Let's take a look at keep the Belle Vue fans hanging on, because they will hang on. I know that. Let's talk about the two the newcomer sides. First up then, Oxford. Now Oxford, you must have many fond memories of racing at Oxford over the years. Of course, one of the great teams of British Speedway, one of the great names, and of course the Cheetahs are racing in the championship. The Oxford Spires is the name of the team at the top level, but they're back at the top level of British Speedway now, ambitiously running sides in all three leagues. They wanted more speedway. The stadium wanted more speedway. Nobody's going to complain about people wanting more speedway in this day and age, so that's what they're doing, and they're going to have a busy time. And the Oxford team, well, tried and tested, you would say. Matt Sayanovsky is in there. Chris Harris, Rowan Tungate, who is the new Australian champion through the winter. Nikolai Klintz, Louis Kerr, Charles Wright, and Ashton Bowden comes in as rising star. So definitely youth and experience, but more so in the way of experience. All these riders know their way around British Speedway.
Yeah, they do. And Matt Sayanovsky hasn't been, I'm not sure exactly how long it's been since he last rode in the UK. You'll know that better than I will. But Matt Say has had a disappointing season in 23, looking to rebuild himself. And I actually had a conversation with Chris Louis on more than one occasion last year, where we actually, over a beer after a Grand Prix, were saying, can't understand what's going on with him. Maybe a return to the UK could be a good thing for him, just to sort of liven him up a bit, because there's no doubt that when he won league titles here before, particularly when he was riding for the Pirates, I mean, he was outstanding. He carried the team at times. So if the Oxford Spars can have that Maciej Janowski, then I tell you what, they are going to be in for a treat, because he's a top-class rider. So I'm excited to see him and see how well he goes. Harris, of course, you know exactly what you're getting with Chris Harris. He'll be top draw, giving it everything. Rowan Tungate, what a winter he's had. Aussie champion for the second time. If he can keep that confidence and roll it over into the 24 season, he could be. I've still got a slight question mark over his consistency. He can be a little bit hit and miss, but if he can just find the key to riding his home track, then he could have a good season. Nikolai Clint, a good rider, you know, a very professional rider, and I'd like to think he'll go good. And Louis Kerr, Charles Wright leaving Belle Vue. Now that's quite a big change for him. Obviously he had several seasons at Belle Vue and getting lots of success there, winning the championship, of course. But how he'll go at Oxford, he'll have to get his trapping hand on. That's quite a departure for him. I'd be interested to see how he adapts to it. And Ashton Boujan, I'm not that familiar about him. I haven't seen him too much, Ian, but I know that people are raving about him.
Well, interestingly, Charles Wright and Louis Kerr, riding for Redcar 2 years ago, won the championship pairs at Oxford. So they were riding together. So they were the championship pairs champions around that circuit. So, Charles Wright goes well round there, certainly at championship level. Ashton Boujan, interesting. He's the 500cc youth champion from last year. His first Speedway fixture was at Oxford. He's done a lot of stuff around Oxford. He only picked up Speedway about 2 years ago. He's a motocrosser. And he's been doing very well in motocross. I think he's former British champion of his category, and fancy doing something different. And I mean, to be fair, he's got a lot of good support behind him, a lot of good sponsorship, and has had a lot of good coaching as well. You know, through the likes of Peter Schrock, obviously at Oxford, has mentored him, but he's had coaching with the likes of Jason Crump, I think, and I think Woofy's actually helped him out a little bit as well. So he's certainly got the premium treatment, shall we say, coming into the sport, and he's got good gear too. So he certainly goes fast, and I think he's out in Croatia at the moment practicing.
Yeah, so as I say, I'm hearing good things about him. They're quite savvy. Clearly, having come from the motocross background, they'll be quite clued up about making sure they've got good kit. And as you've just mentioned, that seems to be the case, and he wants to make a big impact. It's looking at the team, as I say, looking at all 7 teams prior to the podcast, they all look quite good. And if they all go well, then Oxford will have a great season. As I say, I don't know if they're a top 4 team, and people, of course, will slate you for coming out and saying that you might have a bit of negativity about a team. But I think the key to them, I think they'll be quite handy at home. I really do. It will be, again, how they travel, and if they can do that, then potentially they may just be a surprise package. But right now, looking at it pre-season, I think it's going to be hugely competitive, but for Oxford, I'd like to think that they can just re-establish themselves in the top ranks. If Maciej Janowski, I think he is their key man. If Maciej Janowski can become have something similar, a similar impact to what Jason Doyle or an Emil Saifutinov have done at Ipswich, then I think they could surprise other teams. If he's a little bit below par, then I'm not sure. So, as I say, for me, if Janowski can find that form that we saw from him in previous times. Did you look it up when he was last here?
Yes, 2015 with Poole. 2015. So, 9 years.
Yeah, so it's some time ago. It's nearly a decade ago. So if he can recapture that sort of form that I witnessed and commentated on at the time, and he was outstanding, if he can do that, then Oxford will definitely surprise a few. And as I say, they've got plenty of experience in their ranks, and clearly the young lad down at the bottom there looks like he is one that's going to take the job very seriously. But what I'm excited about here, big names in there. We've got a really good-looking team. It's not easy to say they're not going to do much, because they could win it all, because if they really all fire. But as I say, leading into it, they will not. I think the bookies are certainly not making them a top 4 side right from the get-go.
But they have got Chris Harris in the side, and that surely has to mean the playoffs, because that's what he does.
Yeah, Chris Harris is a playoff specialist, isn't he? He just knows how to do it, even if he's not, even if he's not actually in it in his own team. He'll guess for somebody and do the business, which he did last year, which was extraordinary stuff. And if they can manage to drag themselves in there, then even if he's had a quiet season, he will turn the style on late on in the season. But I reiterate, I think if Janowski can turn up with a fresh mind and have an attitude towards the British League with less pressure, with a smile on his face, and produce some sterling performances, I think he's the leader that they will need, and they will get behind, and it would excite the public there as well.
You're listening to Tatum Talks. I'm Ian Brannan. Kelvin Tatum is with us, and this podcast is proudly sponsored by Maitland Travel Speedway Holidays. Now, if you want to jet off somewhere different to watch your Speedway, Maitland Travel are the people for you. And a couple of the trips coming up early season, Kelv, that Grand Prix season is going to be upon us soon when we get into April. Croatia. They've got a trip there to go to Croatia and Zagreb, Lake Bled, and the Croatian Grand Prix as well as a different option. But one we want to really spotlight here, Kelvin, is the trip to Landshut and the German SGP, but of course Munich involved in that as well. Landshut back on the Grand Prix calendar for the first time in a few years, and it's a track that you know well, Kelvin, having commentated and ridden there as well. So tell us about Speedway in Landshut. What can we expect?
I had the good fortune to race there. It's a big, classic European track. Reasonable facilities. It's not the state-of-the-art stadium, but there's nonetheless, I rode in some pairs meetings there and individual or World Championship qualifiers in the past. We have had some big meetings there. They've had Grand Prix in the past there. I expect it's a fast track. I think it can be a little bit narrow going into the corners and coming out of them, so you've really got to have your wits about them. But racing can be, if it's well prepared and the weather behaves, it can be a really good Grand Prix actually. It's not far from Munich, so for people travelling there, Munich is a fabulous place to spend some time. The social scene there, there's history there. It's not that far away, Landshut, actually. It's only about 45 minutes, and it's main road the whole way. It's easy to get to. I wouldn't rule it out. It's a relatively easy place to get to, and I think I would say that people would enjoy their visit going down to Landshut, and if you choose to go with Maitland Travels, I'm sure you'll have a fabulous weekend.
I can't imagine that you've been to such a place, Kelv, especially when you were with Nigel Pearson and not got yourself involved in a few situations involving some German beverages, no?
Yeah, we actually managed to find a place in Landshut itself where I think there was a period of time we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get out of it. It seemed to be sort of down some steps. It was a fairly, it was all right. It was okay. And there are some watering holes in Landshut itself. Of course there are. Munich has more choice, and I'm sure that people will be able to enjoy themselves immensely. And I say the beauty of that is it's not far away. But yeah, my good friend and I, Nige, we had one particular evening in Landshut where I'm surprised we survived because we bumped into some German Speedway fans and they just basically wouldn't let us go home. So, but it was a great night. But as I say, down in Bavaria, it's really pleasant. It's really pleasant. It's beautiful countryside. It's a nice place. I wouldn't. There are much worse places to go to, I can assure you.
Another trip that's actually coming up very soon is a trip to some ice speedway as well. So this is something a little bit different. But have you ever dabbled in ice speedway, Kelvin? That is real top tier stuff, that isn't it, for the daredevil? But what about ice speedway for you?
I actually, back in the day, I actually had the opportunity to ride a proper ice bike on a lake in Sweden, and just for about 30 seconds. I decided that I wanted to be an ice racer in the winter. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Wouldn't that be a great idea? And then, funny enough, the weekend that I was there, I went and watched a meeting in Gothenburg, and there was a big crash in Heat 1 in the first corner. And I saw the blood hit the ice. And I thought, no, not only is it ridiculously dangerous, it was so cold, Ian. It was so cold. And they are a breed to themselves. They are really. And it's fantastic to watch. It's really exciting stuff. And it's clean. I like that. It's clean. You haven't got the dirt, obviously. You're on ice. But by golly, they're brave blokes. They are. You know, they really are. And they are a different breed. But they go like Billy Hell. And it's an underrated sport, obviously dominated by Russians for so long. But nonetheless, anybody who goes out and watches them, I think they have fabulous weekends.
Find out about these trips online, maitlandtravel.co.uk, and get yourself to one of those, whether it's a bit of ice speedway or a trip to the German Grand Prix. All the other Grand Prix are covered as well, including Warsaw, the Czech Republic, Gorzów, Wrocław, Latvia, Riga, the Danish Grand Prix, trips to Copenhagen, right around the world, and as I say, further afield than that, America, Australia, say the ice speedway, long track in Marmande, so much stuff to go at. maitlandtravel.co.uk. Right, let's get back to things right now, Kelvin, and let's have a look at another team, shall we? Birmingham Brummies are back at the top level, sort of forced upon them in a way, because the owners of the stadium, they wanted to run greyhound racing on Wednesday, which is when Birmingham have been running for the last few years. Monday was the only night the stadium was available. Monday night means Premiership Speedway night, so they had to make the decision as to whether they were going to basically shut down or go up a notch. And thankfully, they've decided to go up a notch, and they've had to put together a strong team. As obviously their resources are slightly, maybe a little bit more limited than some sides, because they weren't planning on racing necessarily in the Premiership. But obviously there's more money in it for them to go up that level as well, so it all balances out, hopefully. Their team is Tom Brennan, Leon Flint, Steve Worrell, Zach Cook, Victor Lamparts, Piotr Pawlicki and Vaclav Milik. Pawlicki and Milik, of course, the two heavyweight signings, you'd probably say, in that side. But then, as we've seen, Zach Cook coming from Wolves, along with Steve Worrell and Leon Flint, Tom Brennan in there as well. So there's certainly, again, for the and they were keen. It was purposeful to get some Wolves riders in there because of the lack of speedway elsewhere in the West Midlands, to try and get some of those fans over. They might go begrudgingly, but hopefully some of them will go along to support the riders they have been following at Monmore over the years as well.
Yeah, it's not easy for the Wolves fans when you've had allegiances and there's so much rivalry between the Midlands clubs. I remember riding for Coventry, and just the rivalry between Wolves and Cradley back in the day. I mean, they were proper meetings, they were, and the fans didn't particularly like each other. So all of a sudden to switch allegiance is tough for them, and I feel for them. But I can understand it if one or two slip along to Birmingham and sort of like just creep in under the wire. I could fully understand it. And Steve Worrell and Leon Flint are obviously two riders that were pretty popular at Monmore Green, so they could well have a following there. Tom Brennan's an interesting one for me, Ian. Having had, a few seasons at Belle Vue, roaring around that big track, up in Glasgow as well, another big fast track. But Brennan obviously learnt and cut his teeth on Speedway down at Eastbourne at Arlington there. So Birmingham is sort of a mid-sized track. It's a nice track, actually. I haven't been there for some time, but I enjoyed my visits to Perry Bar. Be interesting to see how he settles in. I think Brennan, it's a big season. He's sort of stepping out of the shadows of Kurtz and Bewley and Lidsey up in Manchester. Who knows? He may well be able to kick on and become a genuine heat leader there, which I'm sure will delight the management. I think the key part to this team are the three European riders: Victor Lampard, Piotr Pawlicki, and Milik. And I think Pawlicki rode, if I remember, he rode for Wolverhampton before, and he was pretty good. And he is a talent, but they had a period of time when they really hit the heights. And I think I remember Pawlicki may have led the polls when they won the Speedway World Cup at Belle Vue. But that is some time ago now. And it's just whether it's what Pawlicki turns up. If we get that Pawlicki, then they will be delighted. Milik has not been as good as he once was, and he's a bit mercurial these days. He looks superb one week and then doesn't do much the next. So consistency. I've written down just a quick note. Need to be consistent. Those three. Lampard, of course, the young Polish rider. Be great for him. Just depends on how quickly he can settle in. But riders like Worrell, I think Steve Worrell will have a big responsibility in that team as the elder statesman to actually, lead there and be one with plenty of advice, particularly early in the season. Could be a tough season for Birmingham. I hope it's not. But it might be.
I think it's a different set of priorities there, and I think people need to bear in mind where they're at. And I know from speaking to some of those involved at Birmingham, Chris Adams being one, they just hope that they have a team that can stand up well at home and doesn't get embarrassed away, and put some competitive performances in. I don't think they've got any designs or dreams of winning the league necessarily. But as long as they have a good, solid season and people turn up to watch them and support them, that's the main thing to get through this season, because it is a new dawn, and Speedway in Birmingham, it may not be there forever. They're another place that the track is under threat, maybe not imminently, but that conversation is going to arise one day, and for people to get down there and back it while it is there, and because that makes it a lot easier for when you do need to find a new track. That day will come that if you can show that you've got great support now, not just after the event when it's all announced, that it might help you find a new venue if you can show that it's a viable concern and thousands of people are turning up.
Sure, yeah, and that responsibility obviously is tough. If you can't sort of roll that over onto riders too much. Riders have just got to come along and do their job. But I hear what Chris Adams is saying, and he's clearly an astute man. He's got Sam Ermolenko alongside him. It's an attractive management team that they've got there. And what I would say is that they need to be positive about. They need to win at home, Ian. They really do need to win at home. If you start getting beat at home by some of the more established teams, then that can turn people away. And as I say, they need to get off to a strong start. They're racing against Oxford on the 14th. If they can put up a good showing in the return leg, my first meeting on television for Eurosport is actually at Birmingham against Belle Vue. And that's a little bit later on. Obviously, we start late in April, but the fact of the matter is that it's absolutely vital. I don't know what the future holds for Perry-Barr. As you say, it's an urban site. There are question marks over all these old stadia in these situations. But no question, they must win at home to keep that home support and keep the positivity. And if they can start well, that will help enormously. If they get off to a poor start and they lose 2 or 3 times at home, then it will be a very long season. But as I say, Tom Brennan needs to step up, all of a sudden really mature. Stevie Worrell, a rider that can really, he's a professional guy. I like Steve Worrell. I like the way he goes about his business. If he can be a real strong influence. And those lads that are flying in to ride from Europe, if they're winning at home, they'll keep their pecker up and they'll look forward to coming, and that will help immensely.
I think Tom Brennan, Leon Flint, Steve Worrell, Zach Cook are all going to be good riders around Perry-Barr. So that I think they'll be solid. As you say, it's the unknown quantities, isn't it? And what those riders, Pawlicki, Milik, and Lampard bring to the party. And if they're on form, then it could be exciting. But if we have a Kasperzak situation on our hands, then it might require some thought.
Yeah. I don't see that. I don't see that there really. I look at those personalities, and I'm sure that they're coming in with genuine enthusiasm. But as I say, if they can get off to a decent start, well, even if they have a few last heat deciders and they scrape through and they win a few times at home, even if they're not picking up bonus points on the road, I just think that is absolutely vital for that for the enthusiasm and the good feel factor to continue through the season.
So Birmingham versus Belle Vue is one of your first fixtures, and let's move on to the Aces then now, because they're always there or thereabouts. And a very familiar looking lineup, really. No major changes apart from, I think the big incoming is Ben Cook, isn't it? Coming in from Peterborough, but of course the captain of the Poole Pirates now in the Championship as well for this season, Ben Cook. So Brady Kurtz, Dan Bewley, Jamin Lidsey, Ben Cook, Norrick Bladorn, Connor Mountain and Connor Bailey. Connor Mountain, of course, comes in as well because he was been with Sheffield, hasn't he, in the past, and he's riding with Scunthorpe in the Championship this year. Connor Bailey, under-21 champion for 2023, was the National League Riders Champion as well. Won that at Workington right at the end of the season. So he's got a bit of silverware in his cabinet now, and now he gets the opportunity that he got right at the end of the season, I suppose, with Belle Vue to now kick on and claim that Rising Star berth for his own.
Yeah, and good luck to Connor. I think it's a fabulous team to ride for. Whenever you can pull on a set of Kevlars with the Belle Vue logo on there, I think the Aces, have got a tremendous history, and they are a very ambitious side. Mark Lemon is always looking to win the league. I don't think anything else really is on his mind. He wants to win. It's quite a big change to that team, though. The Tom Brennan and Charles Wright have gone. Ben Cook coming in. Connor Mountain, Connor Bailey, these are all new. I sense, for me, Ben Cook I think will go well there. He'll fly around there. Norrick Bladorn is a rider again that has improved season on season. I'm pleased to see him back. He seems to be very keen to ride in the UK. Do you know what? The key man for me, Kurtz is great. I like his attitude. Lidsey was brilliant last year, really turned the style on. Dan Bewley. Dan Bewley's the one who I think underperformed at times last year in Britain, and I think he will know that. He will know that, and I'd like to think that if Bewley can get back to his best for the Aces, because that will mean, at times there, like, he didn't really score the points I was expecting him to, and he seemed a bit lackluster, whether he was riding too much and just a bit burnt out. I don't know. But Bewley he's a fabulous talent and a potential world champion. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So for me, they're there and they will be pushing hard. I thought they'd miss the big heat leader. I thought Zagar moving away from the team last year, I thought they would miss him, but they didn't, because Jamin Lidsey came on so strong, and I like that. I think he's coming, and they've got riders that are coming to an age now where they really are, like Bladorn, Lidsey, Cook. I think they are all moving in the right direction. Big season for Belle Vue. Key man for me is Bewley. If he can find his best form on a regular basis here, I think they'll be a real force.
Yeah, I think through the winter, Dan Bewley's been quite busy. He's been over in Australia and rode a few meetings there over the course of the Christmas period. I think, did he do the Oceania Championships maybe, and one or two of the other one-off meetings that were taking place, and did okay. Ty Woofenden has done the same. He's been over there as well. I think Adam Ellis went down to Australia also. So a few riders. Sam Hagan, another one who's spent some time there, another one to watch. So they've been busy. He's been on a bike. He's also had the metalwork removed from his leg, as Dan Bewley, and he said that has affected him at times. He's had the pain, been conscious of having a crash with it in there. I think he's been told that certain crashes, obviously that big leg break he had, and still if he had the metalwork in there, that could complicate things. And I think he feels a bit more relaxed maybe now. I think it was an interview I saw or read, might have been in the Speedway Star, where that now he's got all that out. He feels, that maybe he can be more himself, and that might relax him on the bike a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll wait and see. But
Well, I have personal experience of that because I had a leg break early on in my career, and I rode for a season with the metalwork in there. And there's no doubt after 15 months when I had it removed, there's no question that it feels right again. There was always a bit of an ache. There was always a slight discomfort there when it was there. And when it was removed after about 6 weeks, it felt brand new again. And so I can relate to that. And that will be a positive for Dan. It's something just in the back of your mind that you haven't got to concern yourself with, or it doesn't niggle at you. It doesn't niggle at you. You know, it'll be on an aeroplane. It'll be when you're a bit stiff or you have a bump. It might not just bounce as well as you would like. As I say, Bewley on top form is a sight to behold. He's one of the best, or arguably one of the best riders in the world. So Belle Vue will be looking for him to go great guns this year.
Peter Craven Memorial Meeting is back. That's on the 18th of March. This has got a big lineup. Certainly one to whet the appetite. Bit of a Grand Prix format, but it does have a 6-rider final. I think that certainly was the intention anyway. That was the last year. Freddie Lindgren, Max Frick, Dan Bewley, Luke Becker, Jason Doyle, Robert Lambert, Matsej Janowski, Brady Kurtz, Jamin Lindsay, Noric Bladorn, Selina Lieberman in that as well, and Connor Mountain, all in the lineup. So that is that you're not going to see many stronger meetings than that this season.
No, you're not. And I believe Chris Harris has also put pen to paper as well, Ian, to ride. Yeah. So good to see him up there. As I say, fabulous looking lineup. Really is. It's a very good lineup. And let's just hope that the weather behaves and that they can get off to a flying start up there, because, as I say, I think that will drag a lot of people along to watch, particularly early season when everybody's full of enthusiasm and desperate and starved of action. Robert Lambert turning up, Matsej Janowski, Lindgren, Bewley, Doyle. The only one I'd like to see in there, there's 2 others I'd like to see in there. How many have signed up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're running out of riders, but Woofenden and Seifutenhoff, I think probably 2 names that would really grace that meeting brilliantly. A fabulous way to start the season, and clearly some of the big names in the league flexing their muscles early in the season. And, you know, Belle Vue, fabulous track. I tell you what, that'll be quite a treat to start the season. If it's a dry night, it'll be fabulous.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that one. 18th of March, Monday night, and some of the finest riders, and also Selina Lieberman, of course, first female rider to race in professional speedway in Britain. She's going to be riding for Workington in the championship this season, but interesting for her to test herself against, at least the world number 2 and a world champion or 2 in there as well. At least one.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Selina, but she's certainly very determined, and exciting season ahead for her with riding for Workington on that track, where I'm hearing lots of very good reports about the new track at Workington. So I think it'll be a great experience for Selina to be there. If she can pick up some points and beat some of those bigger names, it will be a massive boost to her confidence. The sort of track that actually she will probably settle in quite nicely with, because she's used to the bigger European track. So, and I would love to think that she'll be really excited about going there and be part of that night.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I fancy that she's pick up some points there as well, and maybe surprise a few people, because she has been going round these tracks. Belle Vue's one she's familiar with. Workington, I know Redcar, she did some practice on a weekend. It was the day after a main meeting, and she went round Redcar in the same speed the same lap time, heat time as Danny King did the previous night. So for people to say that she's off the pace is... Yeah, so and that was not even on her own bike. I think she's been riding Noric Bladorn's bikes over here, but she'll probably have her own now. She's going to be based here, so for Workington. So she's on the pace. So be interesting to watch. Don't rule her out. Couple of things to watch out for this season. You'll be familiar with all this. 2-minute countdown clocks are in. Over the handlebars, ready to race on 0. Otherwise, you're out. Not just getting onto the track and moseying on round. That's going to speed things up a little bit.
Good. There's a bugbear of mine. Just taking too long to get to tapes. I hate it. Probably because I want to get back on the motorway before they put all the cones out and close the roads. But
that is the big hazard of Speedway life, isn't it?
Indeed it is. But no, in all seriousness, sometimes there's an awful lot of messing about prior to a race. So I like that. I think sometimes the new rules are a little bit robotic, and people will argue that, you know, if you drop the clutch and you haven't moved, then you should be allowed to get away with that. But I think that side of it, I think the continuity of it being the same pretty much everywhere, I think is a good thing.
The semi-automated starts, the referee's going to hit the green button and then there might be a delay. Phil Morris is fully expecting lots of tapes to be broken in the first few weeks as some riders get used to that. But the point is that he says, like in the Grand Prix and in Poland, that actually once riders get used to it, you have less all four back sort of situations for riders moving at the start, because they can't second guess the ref anymore. It's either you break the tapes and you're out, or you make a fantastic start. So no middle ground.
No, I get that, and you've just got to remain patient. You can't effectively guess, and get away with that. And then literally, as you say, rightly say, it's all four back, and particularly at a meeting on television, you know, if you have it happen a couple of times in Heat 1, you never seem to get the meeting going. So that is a good thing. I think that's a positive step. Obviously, having the 2-minute clock on the centre green is nice for everybody to be aware of what and how long that's got, and it brings that added tension as riders come around to the start, particularly if somebody is taking their time. The 8-day rule, you'll have to explain this. This stuff sort of bores me to death, really, but obviously these are things that obviously they feel necessary to tweak from time to time.
It was a situation where if you guested for someone, you couldn't guest again for the same side within 8 days, so that you had to have someone else. So what they've got rid of that, so that when it gets obviously down to the playoffs, if you've got loads of injuries and other teams have got injuries, it really narrows your options down as to who you could get to guest for X rider. And so it was like, well, you could have him, but you can't because he's already guested for you in the previous 7 days. So you end up fixtures being moved to sort of fit, and it didn't really make any sense. So now it'll be just any sensible rider that can do it, and especially when you're ruling out riders who have ridden for you before, and it's going to make things very hard. So riders this year, it's bad news for Chris Harris, basically, because he can only ride for one team in the playoffs. He can't ride for someone else in the semis and somebody else in the final. He's got to back his horse from the outset. So that's basically what it is. How's that? Explains it simply.
Yeah, well, with the lack of riders now around, and of course we had so many injuries, obviously I can understand it, but let's hope that it isn't quite as awkward as it was at times last year. Chris Harris obviously becoming a superstar for several teams at the back end of the season. But yeah, the little rule changes, any rider to be able to be eligible for Heat 15, I think that's a good thing. I think it just keeps team managers' options wide open. Don't see any reason that would be a bad thing moving forward. And as I say, these things will get explained, and fans will become accustomed to it as the season goes on. I think for newcomers, I think it's all rather too much gobbledygook. I think they'll sort of just want to know how well their team's going. But for the hardcore Speedway fan, they will pick up on these slight tweaks to these. Heat 15, I think being able to use any rider could be quite significant, actually.
Yeah, and I think we'll see less rider replacement this year as well. I think it's designed to get rid of that, so there's going to be more options for guests if you are short, because previously you could only have a guest for certain riders, but now you can have a guest for anybody. So it's going to make for hopefully teams starting with seven riders, whoever they are, rather than having gaps in the schedule and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to make for hopefully 7 riders versus 7 riders rather than somebody starting off at that other disadvantage. But hey, I'll be here before we know it, and your TV coverage starts end of April, if you want to talk about that. Yes. That's when you get going, and then the Grand Prix starts around then as well, doesn't it?
It does. Just quickly before we finish, Croatia is the 20. I'm looking up at my plan. The 27th of April, and then the first meeting on Eurosport for British fans in the Premiership will be at Birmingham on the 29th, and then we'll be pretty much up and running throughout the year. There will be a small pause for the Olympics, which unfortunately will interrupt a lot of sports at certain times through at a certain particular time in the summer. But apart from that, they're looking to try and get all the playoffs done by the end of September, weather permitting, of course. That's always a bit of a challenge. But excited to go to Birmingham at Perry-Barr again on the 29th. And as I say, this preview for the league teams, tough to leave three teams out of the top four. But what I like about it, as I say, as an overview, is that we've got names in the sides that I wasn't expecting to see. I don't think we've got an obvious weak team. It's difficult to suggest that one team is going to be very, very much weaker than the others, but inevitably there will be somebody at the bottom of the league. But it will be tough and it will be competitive. I'd like to think we won't be getting too many 60-30s. I'm really hoping we don't get too many first heat deciders, because that they can be long old nights, can't they? And also very expensive for certain promoters at times. So, it's a good-looking league. It's an exciting league, and it all starts in pretty much a week and a half if the weather behaves.
Indeed. I did a fixture last year at Poole for BSN, Poole versus Plymouth, and Poole got, I think it was 4-5-1s on the bounce. And we said it surely can't get any worse for Plymouth than that, and it did. In the next heat, they got a 5-0, and
oh God! That absolutely was the commentator's curse, wasn't it?
They fought back a little bit and saying, I know. It was like, surely can't get any worse than this. They did. It was like nobody finished the race the next time out.
They did never finish it.
There's BSN are doing some Premiership coverage before Eurosport get going. They're going to be doing Leicester versus Kings Lynn on the 21st of March. Belle Vue versus Leicester on the 8th of April. What else? Premiership we've got Ipswich versus Oxford on the 18th of April, and Belle Vue versus Ipswich on the 22nd of April. I mean, that's going to be a cracker, isn't it? That one, Belle Vue Ipswich. I think one of the races of the season last year. That was it. Was it the Heat 15 or Heat 13 there? It was the semi-final, wasn't it? The playoff semi-final with Doyle and Saifutinov and Bewley and
Kurtz. And Kurtz, it was the race of the season to me. It was the race of the season. But and let's hope that we can see plenty of that. And as I say, the ingredients are there for that type of race to pop up on a regular basis, whether it's at Belle Vue, Oxford. Talking to Scotty Nichols, who we worked with last year, of course, and I'm sure he'd be back again on the Eurosport team. He says that Oxford has been altered slightly since it's reopened. There's a bit more room going into the corners, and actually the track ride's better than it did back in the day. So I'm really excited to go back to Cowley to see the Speedway there. So I'm sure we'll get some great action there as well.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Tatum Talks, and we'll be back with you sooner than later. Certainly we've got a full Grand Prix preview coming up, but we may be with you before then, I'm not sure. So keep an eye out. Make sure that you subscribe and follow this podcast on whatever platform you're watching, whether it's on the YouTube or whether it's on the podcast. And we'll be back with you very soon and hopefully see you down at a track somewhere as well. And our thanks once again to our sponsors, Maitland Travel Speedway Holidays, maitlandtravel.co.uk, if you fancy following Kelvin on his journeys around the world.
Exactly, yeah, it's not too far away, and if the weather behaves, I'm sure we'll get cracking in March. So I'm looking forward to that, and I've enjoyed looking at and looking ahead to the previewing this season. I think this season could be very exciting indeed. And we'll wait with bated breath for that. We haven't got too much longer to wait. And then we'll be back and do another podcast looking in depth at this year's World Championship. Can Bartosz Marslik be toppled, or will he have it all his own way once again? It will be an interesting conversation to have.
Until next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.